Thank you.
Guten Abend. Wir werden das Interview zusammen auf Englisch führen. Ich werde dann aber die Fragen auch noch kurz ins Deutsche übersetzen und die Antwort. I was just saying that we're going to do the interview in English, but after each answer I'm going to do a quick translation for the audience.
Okay.
Okay. Jean-Michel, the last time I did an interview with you was in, I think it was in 2007 when you put out an album at the time. And back then you hadn't released an album in quite some years. And then after that, it took also many years where you didn't release anything. And now, in the matter of just 1 year or 1 year and a half, there's 3 albums coming out. What happened? Were you kissed by a muse, or?
Yeah, you know, it's happening like this. It's like some actors. Sometimes they are filming some different movies, and they are all released at the same time. But no, actually, electronica took me a long time to do, because it was a collaboration album, and working with so many great artists took me a long time, because I traveled to meet with them, to work with them, and because everybody said yes, I ended with almost 2.5 hours of music, and I decided to divide this electronica project in 2 albums, but it's actually the same project, 2 albums, and actually it's even more than 3, because actually each album of electronica is a double vinyl. So actually it's actually we're talking about 5 vinyls. Okay. So it's lots of music, but and then after this electronica project, that, as you understand, was a massive project in terms of productions, numbers of collaborators, number of tracks, lots of studios, recording studios involved all over the world. I actually wanted to go back to a more minimalist project with Oxygen 3.
Ich habe ihn gefragt, dass jetzt innerhalb von kurzer Zeit, von 1,5 Jahren, gleich 3 Alben von ihm erscheinen, und davor war jahrelang Funkstille bei ihm, und er erklärt das damit, dass er meint, das ist manchmal so wie bei Schauspielern, bei denen dann auch mehrere Filme in kurzer Zeit erscheinen, und das Projekt, an dem er in den letzten Jahren gearbeitet hat, Electronica, das ist ein Projekt, bei dem er mit vielen verschiedenen Musikern zusammengearbeitet hat, und das hat von der ganzen Koordination und Organisation lange Zeit gebraucht, und es entstand dabei so viel Material, dass er das auf 2 Alben verteilt hat. Eigentlich sind es sogar 4 Alben, weil das auf Vinyl Doppelalben sind, und jetzt will er eher ein bisschen was Minimaleres wieder machen, und jetzt hat er noch ein neues Album, Oxygen 3, fertiggestellt. Jean-Michel, I recently spoke to George Moroder, who's a very different musician than you, but you have something in common in that in 1976, when you put out Oxygen, he put out a record that was also equally important maybe for electronic music, I Feel Love, which was like the first electronic disco record, and he put out an album on the same record label that you are on now last year, and he just did it so that he could work with singers like Kylie Minogue or Britney Spears. But then he complained to me that these days it's not like it used to be. When you work together with a musician, everything is just sent by email, by the files, and you don't actually meet the people you're working with. So in that regard, what you did on electronica, it's something very old-fashioned.
No, I don't think it's old-fashioned. I mean, meeting people face-to-face like today is not old-fashioned. I think it was the choice of lots of people, and I mean, these days to work with people by sending files to people you never meet, you never talk to. But you know, it's most of the time for marketing reasons, and all this kind of featuring. I hate this word featuring, because actually it's exactly what you said. You have another choice, and my choice for this project was not at all to get the kind of list of name dropping for marketing reasons. I mean, all these are for every artist. There is a reason why, in terms of sound, music, in terms of inspiration, every artist I worked with, there is specific reasons, because they've been a heavy source of inspiration to me. So it's an entire different project. I spent a lot of time because I wanted to share the creative process with them in a very genuine way, very far away from the music business, and I even went through managers or or lawyers. It was really a creative process. So it's in no way a kind of it was really for musical and artistic reasons.
Ich habe ihm unterstellt, dass die Art und Weise, wie er für diese Alben zusammengearbeitet hat, vielleicht ein bisschen altmodisch ist, weil er mit vielen Musikern ins Studio gegangen ist und es heutzutage viel üblicher ist, dass wenn man mit Sängern zum Beispiel zusammenarbeitet, dass man sich nur noch Files per E-Mail zuschickt und die Leute gar nicht mehr trifft. Und er meinte, nee, das ist überhaupt nicht altmodisch, sondern wenn man mit Leuten zusammenarbeiten will, dann will man die sich auch Angesicht zu Angesicht treffen. Und für ihn war das jetzt keine Featuring-Platte, er findet das auch ein ganz schreckliches Wort, sondern es ging um die Zusammenarbeit und es ging auch gar nicht erstmal um eine geschäftliche Entscheidung, sondern es ging ihm darum, diese Leute, die ihn sehr inspiriert haben und die reichen von Pet Shop Boys bis Julia Holter, von
Massive Attack or Pete Townsend or Tangerine Dream or Boys Noise, lots of different artists, and also linked with the electronic music scene and technology one way or another. So it was a very specific project, very different from, again, from just working with people because of their names. I mean, in this project you have people not really known, but as big as artists than legends. So it was not at all linked with any kind of other reasons that a personal, artistic reason I wanted to collaborate with these people.
Die Entscheidung, warum er mit diesen Musikern zusammengearbeitet hat, war rein persönlich von ihm. Es ging nicht um die Größe der Künstler, es sind sehr erfolgreiche dabei, aber auch sehr unbekannte. Es ging einzig allein um Leute, die ihn inspiriert haben und mit denen er zusammenarbeiten wollte. Und das Besondere ist halt, die sind nicht alle zu ihm nach Paris gekommen, sondern er ist zu ihnen um die Welt geflogen und in die Studios aufgegangen, um mit ihnen da Musik aufzunehmen. Und diese Stücke finden sich jetzt halt auf diesen letzten beiden Alben, Electronica 1 und 2. Unlike other musicians, like if you're a pianist or a guitar player or a singer, you have one instrument that really stands out. As an electronic musician, usually you don't have one instrument, one sound. So if you're collaborating with other people, that's probably also a learning experience after working with so many different musicians, that at the end, have you discovered something about yourself and what your music is, or what it is that makes your music?
Yes, absolutely. It has been really an initiation journey for me, because I learned so much from people who gave me also so much. I mean, working with people such as Moby, or as we said, Pet Shop Boys, Gary Newman, Pete Townsend, Massive Attack, and Tangerine Dream, and Boys Noise, Serious Mo from this city, Hans Zimmer as well, lots of German artists. And I learned a lot, but you know, what I learned also is actually all these people, and I hope it's the case for me, we have, and they have an instant recognizable sound. When you are talking about the sound of an instrument, I would say that, you know, you hear 30 seconds of Moby or 30 seconds of the Pet Shop Boys or Gary Newman, you know it's them and nobody else. And it's not linked to an instrument, it's linked to the way they are approaching music in general.
Ich habe ihn gefragt, wie das eigentlich ist. Als elektronischer Musiker hat man ja anders als ein Gitarrist, ein Pianist oder Sänger nicht ein Instrument, mit dem man arbeitet und was für einen steht, sondern man geht ins Studio und greift auf ganz viele unterschiedliche elektronische Instrumente zurück. Und ich habe ihn gefragt, ob durch die Zusammenarbeit mit diesen ganzen Musikern er vielleicht auch etwas über seine eigene Musik und seinen Sound gelernt hat. Und er meint, dass es nicht so sehr ein Instrument ist, sondern aber dass es trotzdem eine Herangehensweise ist und eine Art zu arbeiten, die sich sofort wiedererkennen lässt. Das heißt, wenn man ein Stück von den Pet Shop Boys hört oder von Gary Newman oder von Moby, dann hört man eigentlich nach wenigen Takten, nach wenigen Sekunden, von wem diese Musik ist. Und sich mit diesen Leuten auszutauschen und zusammenzuarbeiten und dann zu gucken, was entsteht, wenn diese beiden Sachen zusammenkommen, das war für ihn das Spannende. And actually I wanted to kind of put a test question to you in saying that you work together with 4 German musicians on these projects, and if you can remember the names, but actually you just mentioned them all. And they are very different generations. You work together with Edgar Fröse, Tangerine Dream, the late Edgar Fröse, who basically started making electronic music the same time you did. and Hans Zimmer, who's in a completely different musical world, but then also like more youngsters such as Sirius Mo and Boys Noise. And first, for the younger generation, Sirius Mo and Boys Noise, I was wondering, it seems that it's important for you to keep up what's happening in electronic music. How did you find out about these producers, and why did you want to work with them especially?
You know, today electronic music is everywhere, has no more boundaries, and there is something interesting in electronic music because there is a timeless aspect to it, and it's probably coming from the fact that electronic music has nothing to do with America. It has nothing to do with blues, jazz, or rock. Nothing to do with American pop. It's mainly coming from our countries, Germany and France. It's coming from continental Europe. And because of our heritage of classical music, this long instrumental piece actually are linked with our influence and our heritage. Electronic music is really, the origin of electronic music is coming definitely from continental Europe and mainly Germany and France. And this is the reason why, I mean, working with musicians of different generations is not a problem because we are part of the same family, because it's the same concept. I mean, working with some of these younger generations such as Boys Noise and Sirius Mo, great artists from the Berlin School of Electronic Music, the current one. Or people such as Edgar Froese from Tangerine Dream or Hans Zimmer. We all have something in common. Is the kind of timeless passion for exploring sounds and making music with sounds. And this is what uniting actually and make the unity of this electronica project.
Jean-Michel Jarre hat auf diesen beiden Alben unter anderem auch mit 4 deutschen Musikern zusammengearbeitet. Auf der einen Seite mit Hans Zimmer, dem Hollywood-Soundtrack-Komponisten, mit Edgar Froese von Tangerine Dream und mit Sirius Mo und Boys Noise, die beide zu einer sehr jungen, aktuellen Generation an elektronischen Musikern aus Berlin gehört. Und ich habe ihn gefragt, warum gerade diese Musiker und was hat ihn daran fasziniert. Und er meint, dass das Besondere an den Ursprüngen von elektronischer Musik ist, dass es halt eine Musik ist, die sich nicht unbedingt ableitet von amerikanischer Rockmusik, sondern die in Ländern wie Frankreich und Deutschland entstanden ist und auf eine andere Tradition zurückgreift und dass er da schon starke Gemeinsamkeiten sieht in der Geschichte und in der Herkunft dieser Musik. Und für ihn ist es dann eigentlich unerheblich, ob er mit Leuten aus seiner Generation arbeitet oder mit Leuten, die deutlich jünger sind, weil er meint, man hat eigentlich ein verbindendes Vokabular, auf das man zurückgreifen kann.
And I would just like to add that actually for me it's not I'm going to
Did you compose your own ringtone?
Actually, it's funny what you're saying, because what you're listening at the moment is some music I've done for the new channel in France, and actually it's following me everywhere because now they have this each time they have a news, breaking news, you have this music following me everywhere, and I'm sorry.
Ich habe ihn gerade gefragt, ob er auch seine eigenen Handy-Klingelton komponiert hat, und er meinte ja tatsächlich. Und zwar hat er...
It has been a busy year for me because apart from electronica and oxygen and the tour, also I composed this music for television and radio, for the national radio station, news station, radio and public television. So
dieser Klingelton, den wir gehört haben, den hat er gerade für eine französische Nachrichtensendung komponiert, und er meinte, das ist ein bisschen gewöhnungsbedürftig für ihn, weil immer wenn er jetzt Fernsehen guckt, denkt er an sein Telefon klingelt. This reminds me, you did something similar many years ago when you were complaining, or when you told, I think, the owner of the watch company Swatch that they didn't have any clock with an alarm on. So they asked you just to make your own Swatch with an alarm.
Yeah, it's true, yes. I mean, Nicolas Hayek, the head of Swatch, was telling me, because I was going to do a concert sponsored by them. I said, but you're not wearing my watches. I said, because I don't trust concierge in hotels, and I want to have an alarm clock, and you don't do alarm clocks. He said, why not doing one? So I really had to do it. But the challenge is actually, in those days, Swatch was very minimalist as the functionalities, and he gave me I had to do something with 16 events and just 2 notes. And I had to do something with it. It was quite challenging, but became the first Swatch, Alarm Swatch, yes.
Ich habe ihn daran erinnert, dass er schon mal etwas Ähnliches gemacht hat. That was in the 80s?
It was, yes, in the late 80s or early 90s. Early 90s, huh? You know better.
1992?
You know.
92.
Okay.
No. It was 92, 93, I'm not sure.
Am Anfang der 90er Jahre traf er auf den Chef der Schweizer Uhrenfirma Swatch und der beklagte sich, warum er keine seiner Uhren tragen würde. Und er meinte, er braucht eine Uhr mit einem eingebauten Alarmfunktion, weil ihn das immer morgens im Hotel daran erinnert, aufzustehen. Und es gab keine Swatch mit einem Alarm. Und dann wurde er einfach gefragt, eine eigene Uhr zu entwickeln für die Firma. Und er meinte, es war gar nicht so leicht, weil er durfte nur 2 verschiedene Töne einsetzen.
I was linked with an album called Chronology, actually, and they heard that I was doing this album, and it linked, obviously, it was an obvious link with Swatch.
Okay, and I wanted to come back on with your work that you did with Edgar Froese, because back when you both started, Tangerine Dream and yourself, the music you did, I mean, you both did pioneering work, but musically they were opposites in a way. The Tangerine Dream were considered to doing this very dark music, and you were very bright in comparison. Was that a particular challenge or reason why you wanted to work with him?
Oh yes, I mean, for me, Tangerine Dream and Edgar Froese has always been a great source of inspiration to me. I mean, it's really part of the DNA of electronic music, so it was a great privilege to be able to work with them. And actually, it's a strange story, because I thought that we were working at more or less at the same time, and we had this discussion when we met. We said, I think you started before me, and he said, no, actually you made a mistake, because when you started, we were a prog rock band, and we went to electronic music later on. More or less when they started with Fedra, Ricochet in the early 70s, and actually it's true that I started probably 6 or 7 years ago. Who cares today? But actually it's funny to see that it was obviously far before the internet, right? And we were just a bunch of crazy people working with strange machines, and we were in our cellars like rats. And rat as a Chinese sign, you know. And sometimes somehow it fits with electronic music, because we were in our cellars, I mean, working, and we didn't have lots of contact. I remember the first time I heard Kraftwerk, I thought it was a Californian band singing in English, imitating the Beach Boys. I thought it was so cool. And I discovered only a few...
You mean singing in German?
Singing in German, yes. A Californian band singing in German. I mean, and doing a kind of music, a techno version of the Beach Boys, or electronic version. And obviously I discovered a few days later that they were German. But it's just an example to show how remote we were. I'll let you translate this because I would like really to make a comment on Tangerine Dream and Edgar Froese.
Ich habe ihn besonders auf die Zusammenarbeit mit Edgar Froese von Tangerine Dream, der leider nicht mehr lebt, angesprochen. Und die beiden haben ja ungefähr zur gleichen Zeit mit der elektronischen Musik angefangen und wurden damals aber als sehr unterschiedliche Musiker wahrgenommen mit sehr unterschiedlichen Sounds. Und ich habe ihn gefragt, ob das eine besondere Herausforderung war für ihn, gerade deshalb mit ihm für sein Elektronika-Album zusammenzuarbeiten. Und er meinte, ja, in der Tat war es das. Und als sie sich getroffen haben im Studio von Edgar Froese, meinte Jean-Michel zu ihm, ja, du hast ja viel früher mit elektronischer Musik angefangen als ich. Und er meinte, nee, stimmt gar nicht, habe ich nicht, weil als ich die ersten Alben gemacht habe, waren wir eigentlich noch so eine Prog-Rock-Band und haben gar nicht mit Synthesizern zusammengearbeitet, und du warst eher dran. Und er erklärt sich das so, dass es ja damals auch kein Internet gab und man wusste eigentlich gar nicht so genau, wann ist welche Musik überhaupt rausgekommen oder wer hat wann was gemacht. Und er hat noch die nette Anekdote erzählt, dass als er das erste Mal Kraftwerk gehört hat mit Autobahn, hatte er gedacht, das wäre eigentlich eine kalifornische Band, die auf Deutsch irgendwie singt, und er hat das später erfahren, dass das eigentlich eine deutsche Band ist, aber so war das halt zu der Zeit.
Yes, and talking about Tangerine Dream and German music, I mean, I must tell you that for me, Berlin and Germany has been so important in my life. I mean, I love your country, I love this city especially. It has been a heavy source of inspiration in terms of design, graphics, photography, movies, literature, philosophy, music. I mean, this is one of my main sources of inspiration as an artist. And obviously working with some German musicians for me obviously was crucial in this project.
Wollte nur noch mal betonen, dass Deutschland und insbesondere Berlin eigentlich seine ganze Karriere lang eine ganz wichtige Inspiration waren für ihn. Nicht nur was die Musik betrifft, aber auch Fotografie, Kunst, Film, und dass es deswegen ihm auch sehr wichtig war, mit deutschen Musikern zusammenzuarbeiten. I mean, your relationship with Germany goes far, far back, because back, I think it was in the late 1960s, when you were probably in your early 20s, you spent a couple of months at the electronic music studio of the WDR radio station in Cologne. Can you tell us how you ended there and what was your experience?
Yeah, I would like to tell you also that something that you don't know, that I'm not necessarily talking about a lot. But I mean, my relationship with Germany is coming from much before than that, when I was a kid. I must tell you that my mom was a great figure in the French resistance during the Second World War. And I've been raised with this extraordinary woman that was, I mean, she taught me about the fact that we should make a difference for all of us between ideology and people. And in that time, it was not that easy to understand that. And that obviously German people and Nazis were two different concepts. And I've been raised with this idea. And she sent me in Berlin, and when I was 6, 7, because my cousin was in the French army, in the occupation army in Berlin. So I had this kind of very strong link, emotional link with the German people since my childhood, even if unfortunately I'm not, my level of German is quite appalling. But apart from that, I mean, it's something that which has always been very important in my life. So I developed this special emotional relationship with, and especially with Berlin.
I mean, that your mother told you that is, I mean, even more astonishing. I mean, she's a survivor of a concentration camp in Germany, so for her to say this, it's not...
Yeah, it's quite amazing, and I must say that everybody should think like this, but it gave me also this idea of understanding probably people wanting to know more about cultures, and obviously we are cousins and brothers, German and French, and we've been through so many different conflicts, but obviously now it's the past. But it's always good to remind to young people these days that actually, I mean, you German people, it's obviously true now. Everybody thinks that, but back in days when I was a kid, it was just in the 60s, and you still had a lot of, I mean, wonder and I mean, fear and scares and resentment. And I really thank my mom for having, I mean, taught me and raised me with this kind of idea. I think we know that when people, when the power in place is generating ideas, may harm community. I mean, some of us has to stand up against that, and the French resistance were actually. Thank you for this, because it's true, and you know we should not forget that even in France, the French resistance. When my mom was she was in her 20s, right? She was a very young girl, and she was telling me that she was considered as a troublemaker, even as a traitor regarding the power in place in France. So you know, it's things are never black and white. It's right. It's the reason why that I've always been quite involved in all these matters, and it's the reason why, for instance, that today in electronica I wanted to work with somebody like Edward Snowden, for instance, because for me it's exactly the same thing. Is one young guy suddenly saying no to the power in place, saying not stop to technology, but be careful about the abuse of technology and doing something to improve his country, not for the reverse. Sorry, it's a bit long. But it's his fault, you know. Anyway, it's always his fault.
Sagt, dass seine
Good luck for the translation.
Er betont, dass seine Beziehung zu Deutschland ihm eigentlich schon in die Wiege gelegt worden ist. Seine Mutter war im Zweiten Weltkrieg, Jean-Michel Jarre ist 1948 geboren und seine Mutter war nur wenige Jahre vorher im Widerstand in Frankreich und ist Überlebende des Holocaust und war selbst im Konzentrationslager. Und er kann sich daran erinnern, dass er selbst, als er 6, 7 Jahre alt war, als Kind, hat seine Mutter ihm gesagt, du musst eine Unterscheidung machen zwischen der Ideologie und den Menschen. Und nur weil du mit einer Ideologie nicht einstimmst, heißt nicht, dass du die Menschen hassen musst. Und das hat sich für ihn so eingeprägt, dass es eigentlich eine lebenslange Faszination mit Deutschland gab und er das auch für ganz wichtig hält, dass man das den nachfolgenden Generationen mitgibt und dass das vielleicht etwas ist, was gerade nicht nur in Deutschland, sondern auch in Frankreich oder überall man sich daran erinnern sollte. And you just mentioned, I mean, on this album you're not just working with musicians, but there's also one non-musician, and that was Edward Snowden. Could you describe, I mean, first say why you wanted to work with him, but then also can you tell how you actually met him and say something about your collaboration?
Yes, briefly. I mean, one of the theme of electronica is this kind of ambiguous relationship we have regarding technology. On one hand, we have the world in our pocket through our smartphones, and on the other hand, we know that somehow we are spied on by the outside world. And I've been really touched by Edward Snowden the first time I heard his name and what he has done, because as I just told you, he made me think about my mom, for the reasons I just explained, right? And so I decided to contact him, not because he's not an artist, he's not a musician, but actually to involve him, and I think that it was important for this project to involve such a citizen, such a human being. Maybe you could translate first part one.
Es gibt noch einen Nicht-Musiker, mit dem Edward Snowden auf seinem aktuellen Album zusammengearbeitet, mit dem Jean-Michel Jarre auf seinem aktuellen Album zusammengearbeitet hat. Und das war Edward Snowden und ich habe ihn nach den Gründen gefragt und er meint, die Gründe sind eigentlich genau die.
And then I decided through The Guardian, who published his first revelations, to contact him, and then I discovered somebody via video conference. We had the first contact. I discovered a charming young man, very courageous, very brave. He explained me why he did what he did, and I discovered also someone really interested in music and electronic music. In this electronica project, we are all geeks, one way or another. If you think about all these people involved in electronic music, but obviously Edward Snowden is a pro as a geek. Obviously, and he immediately liked the idea, and then I went to Moscow, and we spent a few hours together. It was obviously, as you can imagine, difficult it was like a spy movie a little bit to meet with him, but we decided that this track should convey this kind of obsessive quest that we all have these days towards more and more information, more and more big data on the internet, and having a kind of speedy techno track, and on which we just we picked a few sentences that we recorded and filmed in Moscow, just making a resume of the reason why he did what he did.
Did he have any impact on the music as well, or did you talk about the music, or did you just record the vocals?
We talked about what style the music should be, what kind of mood and tempo, and this kind of crazy hectic track it is actually. And we decided also together about the title, Exit. And he made fantastic illustration of why it should be called Exit, because Exit is we are on the main road, and at one moment you decide to to take this exit, and you know that there is no coming back, and it's a definite different direction, whatever it is. And it's a nice parable, or whatever we call it. And maybe you should translate this first. Because there is a part 3.
Die Geschichte, wie er Edward Snowden kennengelernt hat oder den Kontakt aufgenommen hat, lief über die britische Tageszeitung The Guardian, die auch genau die ersten Sachen enthüllt hat von Edward Snowden. Dann gab es eine Videokonferenz und während dieser Videokonferenz hat Jean-Michel Jarre festgestellt, dass Edward Snowden an einer Zusammenarbeit nicht nur interessiert war, sondern dass er auch ein großer Fan elektronischer Musik war. Dann haben sie ein Treffen in Moskau abgemacht und er meint, das war so ein bisschen wie in einem Spionagefilm und wir haben halt ein paar Stunden zusammen verbracht. Jetzt wollte er aber noch was dazu erzählen.
Yes, and actually, it's also the idea that any kind of music movements already always had two sides. The hedonist side, where we like to listen to music or to make music to have fun and dance and having fun or being moved one way or another with music. And also you have a more social or political aspect. It was true for jazz, it was true for the beginning of rock or folk with people protest songs such as Bob Dylan and today electronic music being one of the main genre of music in the world. All the people doing electronic music and all the young generation also doing electronic music, they are the ones and the closest to internet, to new technology, and to also identify maybe probably the danger or react, because they become a kind of specialist of technology because they are tool on a day-to-day basis. So it's the reason why I think it's so important to respect and pay tribute to these young guys. Whistleblowers. Ready to sacrificing their lives. We don't realize that, but he acted like a soldier. This man. Said because I told him you are risking your life. You may be in prison, and he said yes, but if I'm caught, somebody else will take over and will take it. And it's exactly the pure definition of courage. And we should pay more attention to these people because they are doing this for the community, for all of us. We should take more care about people like WikiLeaks and these people. Trying to investigate and we need these people because, as I say on stage, because we need to know the truth of the people. We are electing some people, and suddenly they are using this power against us. And this is an old story. It's in the monarchy and these centuries. It's not. It's in human nature. So we need to have people like that. Just pointing at all of us. Some dangers and some risks.
Kurz zusammengefasst für die es vielleicht nicht verstanden haben, aber Jean-Michel Jarre ruft dazu auf, dass man Leute wie Edward Snowden auch unterstützen sollte und dass es extrem mutig war und der im Prinzip sein Leben riskiert für das, was er macht. Und elektronische Musik ist auf der einen Seite sehr hedonistische Musik und Clubmusik und dieser Aspekt ist ihm auch wichtig. Aber auf der anderen Seite ist eigentlich alles, was die Produzenten auf diesen beiden Alben verbunden hat, auch, dass sie alles Nerds sind und Musiknerds oder wie im Fall von Edward Snowden halt als Informatiker. Und dass das etwas ist, was sie auch alle verbindet. Und ihm ist halt ein Anliegen, dass man sich zum einen bewusst macht, dass Technologie für Freiheit und individuelle Freiheit sorgen kann, es aber auch gleichzeitig diese Bedrohung gibt. Und dieser Aspekt war ihm halt auch wichtig, dass sich der auf diesem Album findet. Ich muss jetzt mal kurz nachfragen, haben wir noch Zeit für ein, zwei Fragen aus dem Publikum? Oder? Jean-Michel, if it's okay for you, then I would stop now and we'll see if there's maybe a question or another from the audience.
Sure.
Okay, so please raise your hand and then we'll pass on the microphone. Yeah.
Hallo, Ich wollte mal fragen von Jean-Michel Jarre, der hat mal im Interview ein Rezept erzählt, weil ich gerne Schokolade esse. Und er hat mal erzählt, dass er schwarze Schokolade mit Eiweiß zusammenmischt, dass das nicht dick macht. Hab ich mal gehört, ob das jetzt stimmt, aber...
Ja, also ich muss sagen, also es dürfte schwierig möglich sein, ein Interview mit Jean-Michel Jarre zu finden und zwei größere Unterschiede zu thematisieren. So I'm just saying that we're covering very different grounds here. So he says that he remembers reading an interview where you mentioned a recipe with combining dark chocolate and egg white. And
Yes, I understood.
Yes. And but his concern is that he says you said that if you eat this, you don't gain any weight. And he wanted to know if this is true.
Absolutely. I can confess that it's a recipe coming from my mother, and it's the best chocolate mousse in the world. And the recipe is very simple. It's the reason why you don't get weight, and you're right. It's because it's only done with dark chocolate and white eggs. You have no sugar, no butter, no yellow, no cream, and my advice is go home and try it. You'll see, you won't be disappointed. The best chocolate mousse.
Vielleicht nochmal zum Mitschreiben, also es ist alles wahr, das Rezept stammt von seiner Mutter und es geht darum, Mousse-Schokolade ausschließlich mit dunkler Schokolade und Eiweiß, kein Zucker, kein Eigelb, nichts. Und er meint, jeder sollte gerne nach Hause gehen und das mal ausprobieren und er verspricht, man wird nicht zunehmen.
Absolutely, right.
Hello, Jean-Michel.
Hello.
Are there plans for a DVD of your current tour?
It's a very direct question. Well, sure. Yes, as you know, because you went already at few of my concerts, there is a very interesting 3D technique. It's a 3D without glasses. I mean, sorry for Kraftwerk, but I love Kraftwerk, but I don't like 3D with glasses. It gives me headaches. And I love 3D, and this project is all about the scenographies with 3D without glasses. And then it's quite difficult to film, but we are working on it, and I hope that a DVD will be done next year.
Es wird auch eine DVD zur aktuellen Tour geben, ist allerdings gar nicht so leicht, da eine technische Lösung für zu finden, weil es bei diesen Konzerten vor allen Dingen um 3D geht, allerdings 3D, und das war ihm wichtig, ohne dass man 3D-Brillen aufsetzen muss. Und er meint, das umzusetzen in Film, daran arbeiten sie gerade noch, aber das...
Hello, Mr. Jarre. Hello.
Hello.
My question is, because I'm a big Massive Attack fan, how was the work of Massive Attack? Because they're like musicians who has his own genre. So, yeah, that's my question. Thank you.
It was, first of all, a great privilege to work with mainly Robert and Nanja, because, as you know, he's really the leader of the band. And for me, it was really yes, coming back. And it was really it was very high in my wish list, because I think when we are talking about artists dealing with sound, they have very 1, 2, 3. 1, yeah. For every artist, I decided to compose a piece of music, especially for them before meeting them. So before meeting 3D, Robert and Nadja, I wrote a piece of music in function of the idea I had regarding the track I wanted to do with them. And we worked together. He liked it very much, but we were not getting anywhere for a year almost. And then suddenly, in one night, I idea, I propose something else, and then we use it as we love. It has been, I must say, I've been delighted working with him, and I think it's really great because he went to my concert in London.
Tag war für ihn eigentlich so mit einer der schönsten Erlebnisse bei dem Album, aber auch etwas, was sich sehr lange hingezogen hat, und über fast mehrere Jahre ging das, und er hat mit jedem der Musiker, für die er auf Electronica 1 und 2 zusammengearbeitet hat, ihnen kurze Skizzen vorher geschickt mit Musik, die er sich vorstellt, an der sie arbeiten könnten, und Musik gemacht, und Robert de Nage war auch gerade erst vor 10 Tagen beim Konzert in London, und die sind mittlerweile gute Freunde geworden, und ja, das ist etwas, was ihm bei dem Album ganz wichtig war. So, eine Frage vielleicht noch. Dann bitte hier vorne. Wird's geben. Hier vorne.
Yeah, it's funny because when you ask the Q&A, we start like this. Nobody raises his fingers or her fingers, and less time we have, more people are interested. You notice that, huh?
Yeah, but it's better than the other way around.
Absolutely.
Okay, my question was, as Oxygen released Oxygen 3 in December, will you extend the tour next year? So we can make plans?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, you know, this tour is actually for me a kind of work in progress. I see this tour, I mean, with a kind of evolution during next year, and as you know probably, even before the album is released, I decided to play one excerpt of Oxygen on stage every night, and I would like to continue obviously after the release with more excerpts of it, so to move from this electronica tour into something a bit different, evolving all along 2017.
Perfect, yes.
Anfang Dezember erscheint das neue Album Oxygen 3, und die Frage war, ob sich das auch auf seine Tour niederschlagen wird im nächsten Jahr, oder ob es dann vielleicht eine Oxygen-Tour geben wird. Und er meint, es wird jetzt keine eigene Tour gehen, aber die aktuelle Tour wird weitergehen und sich auch verändern. Aktuell spielt er schon eins der neuen unveröffentlichten Stücke, und dann wird es halt nächstes Jahr noch weitere da geben. Jean-Michel Jarre, I wanted to thank you for the last hour. It was a great pleasure.
Nice to see you again. Will you visit the show from Yellow next week?
It's funny what you're saying, because I met with Boris Blanc this afternoon. You've seen it already. You know everything.
This was my second question.
Yeah, are you going to be there? Because unfortunately I'm touring, so I'm going to miss. Are you going there?
Yeah, of course.
They are playing with Kraftwerk, right? No, it's just Yellow.
Yes,
because I know
just
that they
Yellow
are.
and 4 shows in Kraftwerk in Berlin. It's our building and
Yes.
nice location. Also
Yes,
for
great.
a show from you.
Yeah, I mean it's. I would have liked to see that. Unfortunately, I'm touring this week. That next week I'm in Scandinavia, Stockholm and Helsinki. So not possible. Yeah.
Okay, and the last one, merci for
Yeah.
see you tomorrow.
Great.